County Adhoc Committee of Public Works meeting to order. Ask clerk to take roll, please.
Tom Hawk.
Here.
Ron Kinsley.
Here.
James Slender.
Here.
Bruce Paulson.
Here.
Tweed Schuman. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Number 3, certification of compliance open meeting law.
The meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. We have the agenda. The agenda is a short agenda, but we had a really nice meeting yesterday with Ventures and Byron Construction. They're putting together the final drawings so they can put together an estimate budget where they're at. That meeting will be on the 24th of this month. Do you have anything that you can show, Mr. Hall?
Yeah, I think Alex can put stuff on the board and
Yep.
Andrew can help us walk through it perhaps. We've only got less than a half an hour to cover ground, so we're not going to cover everything that we covered yesterday, but basically they provided schematic drawings on where we're at, pretty close to final renditions pending how we come out cost wise. So where we're at is these drawings and these packages contain all the information that Myron needs to do the initial cost estimate, and then we take a look at that on the 24th and see where we're at. So maybe Andrew wants to just kind of briefly summarize where these are at and what these documents represent.
Can I interrupt 1
I
second?
missed the minutes.
What's the goal of today's meeting? Just information sharing?
We wanted to get information out to this committee
Okay.
of the meeting yesterday that is getting ready to go out so they can give us a price. We
Okay.
want to get approval of this committee to get it to Public Works to get it to full.
Okay. So this committee is going to approve what we're going to see today. Is that the goal? All right.
Basically, to move this forward to Public Works as well, and then so that you have a look at it as we go into the costing phase, which is the next step.
All right.
Andrew, want to go over anything?
Yep, I can take over here. So as Tom explained, what we're looking at here is a schematic design package. And there's 2 different parts that Venture put together that Myron will now use to complete our first estimate and really give us a gut check on where these drawings compare to the budget that's been set aside by the county. So cover page you see here just gives you a rendering of the building in the bottom left corner, and then just general information about the project itself and the different entities involved, from civil, architectural, structure, and all the way down the line. So a couple blank spots, but not abnormal for this stage in the process.
So
maybe if you
condition is in the gray?
Yes. So there you go. Not having control, a little hard to explain there, but where I believe it's Alex has highlighted there, you see the addition joining up with the existing jail. And then as you travel back towards the courthouse, we do have one section of pitched roof and that kind of more of a ceremonial entrance into the courthouse on the parking lot side of the building. So that was done to kind of tie the 2 buildings together with a little bit of slope roof, but then keep the majority of it flat as we tie into the jail. That transition from slope to flat roof also helps us disguise the firewall that's hidden behind it a little bit as well. So if you go to page 2 now, this page just details out for us the different areas of firewalls that are required by code. So that again, as we go through, we can account from them from an estimating standpoint, but not much else to show here. That's, like I said, just dictating the different type of firewalls. So if you go to page 3 then, here we start to get into the overall floor plan. So that it'll give you some perspective of how the 2 different buildings tie together. And you can see them all in one sheet. But as you see there, each different section has a dotted line around it and a number associated with that dotted line. And the subsequent pages here, you will see that gives us an enlarged view of those areas and provides a higher level of detail.
Andrew, can you explain a little bit about the different codes for different rooms? 2 hour, 3 hour?
Yeah, 1 second here. Now open up my paper copy, just it's gonna be a little easier to see on my end. Are you talking about the different occupancy types for the room?
Yeah, they have to have fire retained for 2 hours or 3 hours.
Yep, so if you back up 1 page, then I can touch on that. I think to what you're referencing, if you zoom in here, the couple different firewalls that we have shown, one up against the jail and then the other up against the existing courthouse, are both 3-hour firewalls. And then what you're referencing is if you zoom into any one of the spaces with the hash line, you'll see an A3 or A2 occupancy. And what that does is basically this just shows the homework that Venture's done, noting the different occupancy load within the room, which they use to calculate what type of firewall they need, along with what egress is required in and out of those spaces. And those egress lines, you can see those dotted lines with the arrows in and out of the spaces. So again, this is kind of them just showing their work, and ultimately the state looks at this to confirm they agree with the different firewalls and occupancy rating that Venture has shown here.
The sprinkler system in the holding area, they're trying to avoid.
Yep, good point. So maybe if you zoom in a little bit to the holding area. So by code, these holding cells are required to be sprinklered. What Venture is planning on doing and has already started the conversations with the state is asking for a variance of that code, because neither building is fully sprinklered. It's something, as Jack explained yesterday, that they've done in the past and they feel confident they can get pushed through, but it is something, or it is a variance they will be requesting from the state.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So you can probably go to page 4 now. Okay, so on page 4 here, it takes that overall drawing and breaks it down into the different spaces. So left side of the page, you see the north courtroom, and south side, or the right side of the page, you see the south courtroom, and a greater level of detail that ultimately our estimator, Nick Sanderfoot, will go through, mark up these drawings, calculate square footage, which will give us the amount of walls, carpet, finishes, all the things we need to put together a full estimate. What was that, Tom?
No, somebody in the hallway.
Nope, not a problem. Okay. I guess any question on the spaces in general? I know we went through kind of design intent the last time this committee was together, but any questions on what you're seeing here?
If you look at the right side, that's the existing courtroom flipped around the other way. And then to the right is the new boardroom with other meeting space. That entry that he showed with the canopy over it, and then the new assembly room to the bottom of that. So, for meetings, we would be able to utilize that conference room, which would be roughly the size of this room. And then the jury room to the left, which is actually a jury room, that also could be used for staff meeting space as well. So we end up with, those 2 meeting spaces in addition to the large new boardroom. This space would tentatively be then split into offices for the veterans services if we eliminate the building they're in currently.
Yep, so maybe Alex, back up one page to page 3, and we'll touch on veteran services there. So go down to the room you're currently sitting in. The way you'll see the budget come across on the 24th is the main project will all be shown as one budget, broken out by each construction division, but ultimately one budget. And then you will see an alternate for remodeling the room you're currently sitting in to the Veteran Services office. That price will also include the demolition of the existing building and getting it back to a level site, so that then the committee can make a decision as to whether that's something that should be included in the project or not. Venture will be giving us one additional drawing and kind of a blow up for that space to give us that further level of detail as well. And that's something Jack said he could have pulled together by early next week for us. So now you can probably go back to page 4 and see if there's any other questions on the 2 different spaces, the north and south.
The spaces as they're shown here are the culmination of a lot of meetings with all the staff, sheriff staff and judge's staff. Chris Channing was involved in all these meetings as well. Particular attention to the flow of traffic of inmates, public, and judge staff to keep them all separate. So I think everyone is in agreement that the layout works for all those things. So I think that there's really a lot of work that goes into that one picture here.
Yep. Yeah, and then a lot of conversation around trying to make both of the courtrooms as similar as possible, even though we're dealing with a new space on the north and a remodeled space on the south, knowing we couldn't make them exactly the same, but I know the judge was very conscious on trying to make them as similar as possible. Okay, so if there's no questions there, we can jump ahead to page 5 now. Page 5 is simply the overall roof plan. So it, again, allows us to take off the roof square footage from a budgeting perspective and things like coping and transitions and everything like that. Pretty straightforward there. Page 6 gets into some exterior elevations of the building. Some of the discussions had around these yesterday was that, you know, how much stone is the right amount of stone? What exactly is that product? Venture is still working on maybe getting some specifics there. What was decided is we'll budget what is shown to kind of get that snapshot in time of what you're seeing here. And then that'll establish a quantity of stone. And even if it becomes half height of the wall or just a simple wainscot, the bottom 4 feet, we at least established, again, that quantity we're dealing with and can adjust where that quantity is around the building as needed.
Is this going to be artificial stone or real stone?
That was part of the conversation yesterday. I know Tim voiced his opinion as wanting to make sure it was real stone so that the artificial stone doesn't discolor over time. And then Jack mentioned he was going to task his designers with going back and seeing if there was even an alternate product to real stone that may tie in the existing building with this new addition better. So short answer, the exact product is not selected yet. We'll carry a budget based on a stone product, and then we'll make a final selection later down the road. Other questions on the elevations there?
Move along.
All right, so page 7 then gives us a couple what we call sections through the building, which again allows us to vet out, you know, the volume of the space and make sure we're accounting for different ceiling heights, which tells us how high the walls need to be constructed. It also shows the structure in there and the footings below grade. So again, just kind of lets us vet out some of the assumptions we made on just the flat floor plan earlier in the plan set here. Right now we are showing block walls for the firewalls, a steel bar joist for the roof structure. There was some conversation yesterday on also looking at block walls throughout the building. I expect that we'll do some homework and bring a couple different options back to the core team for conversation there, but it's trending towards either a steel construction or CMU right now. All right, next page. Next page gives us an interior rendering of the north courtroom in this case. And then there should be one for the south courtroom next as well. Again, here, these finishes aren't set, colors aren't selected, but what this tells us is we should be budgeting for something that is wood paneling on the walls. It may be a completely different color than this, different patterns, but from a budget standpoint right now, that's what we'd be carrying in our estimate. And then I think you flipped forward to the south courtroom there, you're currently showing, just to give the group an idea of what that may look like. You flip one more page forward to 10 there, it gives a rendering of the county boardroom. Yesterday we had some discussions in this photo as to whether the seating you're seeing for the county board there is fixed or movable. I think there was some desire to have both, so perhaps it's furniture that looks fixed, but it has some casters underneath to allow it to roll around the room as needed. And some of that comes down to how much wireless equipment you'd be using for the board meetings as compared to wired, and how much you'd actually want to move that equipment around if there's a lot of wires to deal with. All right, why don't you go to page 11?
Before you do, so some of the county board members their backs are going to be to the audience?
No, we did
Venture has
discuss
been
that.
told that that's not desirable, and this rendering just I don't think has been updated yet, because if we flip back to the floor plan, it does show it in more of a U shape rather than having those 6 seats their backs to the audience, and that was mentioned again yesterday.
So the 15 board members would be in a semicircle instead of a square kind of a thing. Staff could be back facing the audience, for admin or finance or court counsel or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was definitely discussed, and I don't want to speak for Jack. I don't know if you have room for a complete semicircle or if it's more of a U shape to get all those seats in there, given the 27-foot dimension we have across the room there. So if you go to page 11 then, this starts to show us their intention for where the air handler sits on the roof, along with what supply and return ductwork looks like throughout the spaces. Again, this is pretty high level detail right now, but it shows us the main trunk lines there. The only space that wouldn't be fed with this that was discussed to be the county boardroom might have some component of a electric heater due to the pitched ceiling in that space and trying to keep ductwork out of there. So maybe some sidewall vents coming out of the hallway feeding there from a return air aspect, but then electric heat up against the exterior wall to properly heat the space. But otherwise, nothing real exciting on this page. But if you flip to 12, it shows us their intention for zoning of the different spaces. Specifically for HVAC, I should say. And if you flip ahead to 13, is Venture's first crack here at what the different structural framing members look like for the spaces. So again, allows us to budget and make some assumptions here along the way. Then the final page in this packet goes through landscaping and the site work surrounding the renovation and expansion here. There was a little bit of conversation yesterday as to what's the right amount of pavement to be replacing. I think ultimately the budget's going to help us make that decision, but this gives us a starting point. Then it's easy to change this one way or the other down the road. A couple other points that were discussed are on the east side of the building, adding some bollards to this plan that would protect anyone from driving a vehicle into the judge's chambers on that east side. And then on the west side for similar protection, maybe putting some decorative type planters there to dress it up a little for one, but I'll also offer that protection from someone ramming a vehicle into the building.
Have we determined any problems in Fifth Street yet? That was one of the major hiddens.
As far as like what's under there?
Yeah,
So we have the utilities mapped out, and actually Tim was did some homework as well in regards to electrical, and is in the process of sending in some information to Excel Energy so that they can give us a cost for relocation, and that'll help continue the conversation as to any other challenges with moving that power, which currently runs right through the proposed new building.
but there are no adverse surprises.
Not yet. Nothing.
Right, okay.
Right. And in all honesty, you know, we're going to have locates which have already been done and are marked out on the pavement out there. If you walk by, you'll see all the lines on the streets. Until we go and open that hole up is usually when you come up with any surprises. But the best we can do right now is our homework up front is where they're telling us the lines are and plan accordingly. So any questions on the plans here? Otherwise, I would have, Alex, do you have access to that second document? Okay. Maybe open that quick if you could. Yeah, so this is a longer document. This is 58 pages. But what this is their design narrative, or Venture's design narrative. And again, it helps complete the picture for us when we're going through budgeting as to what type of finishes, what type of structure that we see in the space, so that the budget aligns with their design intent. So if you just scroll down through here, table of contents shows the different sections in the document here. But maybe just scroll down to, yeah, you can stop here. So just high level gives you a summary of the project, you know, what we're doing, the delivery method, and the different parties involved. And then right away it starts to get into structural comments. So standard foundations, continuous wall footings at the perimeter of the building, and full foundations on the exterior stoops. Again, pretty normal for what we're doing here, but it helps spell that out so that it limits confusion down the road. Standard 5-inch slab on grade you saw there. Then it walks through the shell of the building, you know, what's that constructed of. It walks sort of through the floor construction, the roof construction, so on and so forth with the exterior walls and the envelope of the building as well. Roofing again there primarily talks about the fully adhered flat membrane roof. EPDM is the specific type of it, but again, lays out the insulation thickness so we can make sure it's budgeted appropriately. And these next couple pages get into interior construction and the interior finishes. So again, laying out what the walls are constructed of, what thickness of drywall to use, how many coats of paint to budget for. Yep, we talked about yesterday some of the specialties. Does the county provide the toilet paper holder or the paper towel holders versus us carrying them in the budget? Those type of conversations. Yesterday during the meeting, we also removed any electric hand dryers based on the group's feedback of those not necessarily being desirable for the county.
Andrew, we're going to bump up against another meeting here, and I think these documents were too big to email individually, but you were emailed the links and you can download them and peruse them. But this is basically, where we're at in the process, and so we are looking to have Myron then put some dollar signs on where we're at, and that will be the next step of the process. So if there's other questions about where we're at and where we're going.
Do you need action on this?
Yes.
So would you need a motion to advance this to Public Works?
Yes.
All right, so I make a motion to advance the schematic design that has been presented here on for further review of Public Works.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Slender, second by Mr. Paulson to approve the presentation to pass it on to Public Works. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for now, Andrew. I did skip past the number 5.
So I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Slender, second by Mr. Paulson to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So the next time Ventures, Myron, and the group meets will be on August 24th.
Okay, August 24th. And then do we have any involvement on the bidding? Are we going to bring the costs back to this committee before it goes to Public Works?
Potentially, yes, but we're going to find out what we learned at that meeting, and then we'll decide when to have the next meeting, if that's acceptable. Okay,
Good.
meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Andrew.